So today I'm going to be talking about 5 things you should know about the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines and the vaccine safety profile. Hello again everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dr. Tosin. I'm a medical doctor based in the United Kingdom, work for the NHS service as a GP trainee. I do videos generally on health, fitness, lifestyle and productivity. First, and today's video I have to give is I am not a virologist, and basically as a medical doctor we've seen the studies, we've seen some of the data that has been put out, and I am just going to go ahead and interpret some of the data out there for you. Ultimately, I leave people to make up their own mind whether they should take the vaccine or trust the vaccine, but with so much misinformation out there, I only felt it's necessary to try and see if we can shed a bit of light and explain some of the things in as layman language as possible for people to try and understand. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please hit the subscribe button somewhere down on the left hand side there, and the notification to get updates on new videos that are out. I always release videos around the health related topics, especially weight loss, lifestyle changes, fitness, and I also do productivity videos as well. Now, the first thing we need to point out is that although mRNA COVID-19 vaccine is cutting edge technology, mRNA vaccine technology itself is not entirely new. Now, human trials have been ongoing for cancer, especially using the mRNA technology since 2011. So if there was a real problem with the technology, it would have been seen by now. And clearly the technology has learned from previous pandemics in the past, like the MERS and the SARS pandemic previously, and with all that technology put into place there, the similar coronavirus viruses. With this new technology in place, what really differs is in the vaccines is that old vaccines, previous vaccines, DNA vaccines, tend to contain some material from the virus itself, what probably the inactivated form of the virus or virus DNA, or what we call the live attenuated form. In contrast, what the mRNA vaccine is, and mRNA stands for messenger RNA, is that it essentially takes the message to your cells, where it tricks your cells into making a particular protein which is similar to the protein on the coronavirus. What that then does in turn is allows your body to initiate an immune response to protect you from the coronavirus. That's the simplest way to explain it in a nutshell. But it's all synthetic material. It does not contain any inactivated or live form of the SARS-CoV-19 virus itself, SARS-CoV-2 virus itself. So it does not have any form of triggering the COVID-19 illness in itself. So the second thing is that the mRNA vaccine does not alter your DNA. Now, clearly there have been a lot of misinformation out there, painting the zombie apocalypse scenario, like from the movie I Am Legend and some other movies out there. I can't remember the top of my head. But what happens is that because it's synthetic material, when the messenger RNA gets into the cell, it degrades. Now, your DNA is located in the nucleus in the cell, and it does not get there. It essentially just delivers the message into the cell for the body to produce the protein, but does not get to the DNA. So there is no scientific basis that we have that there is an alteration in the DNA. So whatever information is being spread has no scientific basis. And the third thing is that mRNA vaccine technology is very specific. It's much more specific, and it tends to target just a particular spike protein to stimulate an immune response. Now, the thing about the coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, it has a complex structure, and different parts of the virus trigger different immune system responses, and therefore ends up producing different types of antibodies in our body to try and neutralize the virus. Some of these antibodies themselves end up triggering a cascade of problems that cause the whole problems that we see with people having lung failure, cardiac arrests, and bleeding problems. But the mRNA vaccine is much more specific, and because of that, it's able to have targeted and tailored immune response to prevent the virus from entering the cells itself. So number 4 is that although it's new technology and cutting-edge technology, there are still a lot of unknowns, admittedly. And with everything new, there is that level of trepidation that we all have with the what if question. And as we are all negatively biased as human beings with catastrophes, we tend to want to envision the worst case scenario. We've tested it on 40, that's done clinical trials on 40,000 humans, and so far so good. What we've got from it is a fairly safe safety profile. Going through the studies that they use and the clinical trials, what we were able to see was that the body was sufficiently able to mount an immune response to reduce the infection rate or the rate of illness in people by up to 95%. We still do not know clearly whether it reduces the transmission rate, or if and how long term immunity you get from it. What is really the current challenge, I think, is to understand whether these vaccines will be able to mount sufficiently a protective immune response in the average human. But so far so good. We have good details coming out is to see what happens in the long term. There is the argument from people that they would like to wait for that, and that's fine, and that is their prerogative. But judging from my perspective as a frontline worker, healthcare worker, we are at a higher risk of getting infected because we come into contact almost on a daily basis with people with either possible symptoms or confirmed symptoms, and we have to have a risk versus benefits discussion with ourselves and how we mount that. I have always primarily advocated that the first thing we need to do is take care of our own immune system by having adequate sleep, eating healthy, staying healthy, getting lots of exercise, and having some form of practice that gets you in your peak form. But to top that up, in my previous video, I showed people that I'd taken the vaccine myself, at least the first dose, and I believe that that can give me the extra added protection on top of my already good baseline immunity. Well, at least I'd like to think I've got a good baseline immunity for myself to give me that extra protection. And given these factors, I feel personally that I'm protected from a bit of the unknowns. Some of the other unknowns that have been mentioned is, although because the trial was done over a short period, just over 8 months or so, taking other data from other trials into consideration, they still do not know the effect on pregnancy or lactating women, or whether or not it will affect fertility. So now that statement is that we do not know the effect. It does not necessarily translate to it will harm, which I think is what's interpreting a lot of people's mindset when they hear that particular term. Fifth thing to point out is that the clinical trials for the approval of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine was done under robust guidelines by the regulatory bodies. There is an eyebrow that has been raised even in the medical and scientific community as to how quickly the vaccine was produced and got out. Doing my research and looking at the data that had been provided, what we've been told clearly was that with trials, essentially people conduct their trials, complete it, then submit the data to the regulatory bodies, who now go through it robustly over another set of months. The new thing they did here was that the regulatory bodies were reviewing the data on a rolling basis and fundamentally doing it as the trial was going along to see if, to help obviously mitigate the timeline that would have been involved in doing everything at the end. And another thing to state is that, as we had mentioned earlier, the mRNA vaccine technology platform is not new. It's been used and has been used in previous trials for cancer. So what had been done was that was just simply applied to this trial, and with a bit of innovativeness and maybe a level of desperation, as we all were wanting something to help treat the vaccine, they were able to get some positive results, all being just 95%. And that has led to the vaccine and them achieving the positive results in that short window of time. Do we need more trials? Probably we do, and they will probably be done on an ongoing basis. As with all new drugs out there, there is still robust monitoring and strict monitoring ongoing to see if there are any side effects, adverse effects, or long-term reactions that will be produced by this. But knowing from the technology, it's extremely specific and it's coding for a specific type of protein, and it degrades on going into the cell. So the likelihood of there being untoward effects in DNA alteration are very unlikely. So guys, that's about it. 5 things I thought you should know. Come to the end of the video. Let me know what you think. Are you getting the vaccine? Are you against the vaccine? Leave some comments. I want to have some constructive discussion. Leave your comments below, and if you need to be signposted to the right information out there, I can post that in the show notes and the descriptions for you to follow as well. Literally the next 8 days I'll be getting the next dose of the vaccine, and they tend to think there are more side effects at the second time, so I'll let you know as well, and I'll carry you guys along. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and catch you later.